Okay, here we go again. It's Wednesday, the 13th. We got a full moon out there tonight, or the really big full moon. I forget what they call it, but it's bigger than normal because the moon is a bit closer to us than it normally is for full moons. So anyway, with that, let's play the play-in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, as I've said on, I guess, every show, my views, even though they're the absolutely correct views for everybody to have, are not necessarily the views of Petaluma Community Access or any of its affiliates or any of its other DJs or talk show hosts or whoever is on this radio station, I mean. Okay, if you have any suggestions about how I could make this show better, as difficult as that may seem to think of ways, send them all, including death threats and hate mail to the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. All one word, all lowercase. I'll get it. And then I will treat all these suggestions with the seriousness with which they should be taken, including those that tell me to go F myself. Okay. Shout outs. All my international people, I've gone over those over and over again. I got a grand total of about 12 in Europe and about 5 or 6 over in Australia and New Zealand. So, and they see me or listen to me on Spotify, which is collated by anchor.fm. Okay, and then I've got a special shout out before I get to the usual shout-outs. Mickey Huff, who is the godfather of Project Censored. He lives up in the Sacramento area somewhere now. He's off for the summer, or maybe he's teaching a summer's class. I don't know, but he teaches at Diablo Valley College. And if you want to catch up on what Project Censored is doing or read their newsletter, and look for a book at your local bookstore called The State of the Free Press 2022. Anyway, go to projectcensored.org. It's all one lowercase word, projectcensored.org. And then Nolan Higdon, who is a lecturer at Merrill College, and they're part of the UC Santa Cruz College. And he's going to have a bi-weekly column on the Project Censored site, projectcensored.org, and that should be a very interesting thing to catch up on. Okay, and locally, Nariman and Art Kuznets, Tom and Nancy Throw, Keith and Cody K, all these people are here in Petaluma, and then Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon, Dave and Rosie Takach up in Sacramento, and then, of course, Mickey Huff lives up in Sacramento as well, in the Sacramento area. Okay, over in Sebastopol, Rich and Kathy Berger in Pacifica, Stan and Kathy Gustafson, and down in L.A., Jackie and Wayne Kolar and their daughter Samantha Kolar. And no, well, she's married, so I don't think that's her real last name now. I'm not sure what her real last name is, but Samantha. You know who you are. Okay. Arizona, Katrina Hilliard. Not Katrina, Karina Hilliard, the snake removal technician for Patagonia, Arizona. And then my brother Brandon and his wife Mina and their daughter Andrea and her husband Tim and their 3 little terrorist kids. They're growing up fast. Enjoy them while they still obey your every whim, which I'm sure the 3 little terrorists do. Okay, in Arkansas, Shannon Reed, and then down to Florida, Amelia Beamer. In Edgewater, and then Nelson and Ellis Lydell over across the state in Sarasota. Going up the coast to Herr Dr. David Rubin in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area. And then last, Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. She listens in every now and then. Okay, let's get to the meat of this, shall we? Sip first. This is just water with a little bit of lime juice in it. Okay, real good news. Beginning July 16th, which is about a week from now. Well, no, this show that I'm doing right now will be broadcast on KPCA and worldwide at www.kpca.fm this coming Sunday, the 17th. Is that right? 17th? Let me look right quick. Yep. Well, okay, getting back to the good news. Beginning July 16th, which would be Saturday of this year, you can dial 988 and be connected to a mental health support person. Suicidal thoughts, substance abuse, crisis, or any other kind of emotional distress can be dealt with by dialing 988 beginning this Saturday. So, for those of you who are feeling extraordinarily lonely, depressed, and sad, give them a call. Try them out. I've told you before, not lately, but and it's on hold. I've been training as a youth crisis counselor for Project the Trevor Project, which is a project that concentrates on LGBTQ youth, and I went through the first part of their training, and then I went on a conversation with an AI generated troubled teen, and I was supposed to talk with them, and using the skills that I learned, I ran out of time. On my conversation, they limit your time talking to a troubled teen depending on the severity of their problems, which the initial intake person at the Trevor Project determines. Okay, I'm not going to go into it any more than that, but I'll be back. Okay. Good news, if it works. Ted Liu, one of our representatives from down south, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Those two teamed up to send a letter to the Senate, the United States Senate, asking them to open an investigation as to whether Supreme Court justices Kavanaugh. You remember the I like beer crybaby. And Neil Gorsuch lied under oath. Of course they did. They're on, we've got them on tape answering questions that, Roe v. Wade is settled law, blah, blah, blah. Of course they lied under oath during their confirmation hearings. Okay. That's not going to go anywhere, but it's been, sent to the Senate. I don't want to say that's a fool's errand, but don't hold your breath. Okay. Extremely bad news. A gun manufacturing company, is making a gun called, you ready for this? The JR-15, meaning junior. It's modeled after the AR-15, which is a smaller and more lightweight version of the AR-15. I guess that might stand for adult R-15. I don't know what the R is, but the JR is junior. Okay. Their website says, and I'm quoting their website, quote, "It looks and operates just like mom and dad's gun. It's called the Wee One Tactical." The company ad features a cartoonish boy's skull and a cartoonish girl's skull. Yeah, you can tell by the color of the ribbon on top of the skull. Both with pacifiers in their mouths. I'm not making this up. Look up, Wee One Tactical, or Google it. It's there. Okay. And there is a magazine, I think it's called Junior Shooter. I think that's what it's called. It's a magazine of younger gun enthusiasts. I still don't hate the gun manufacturers as much as I hate big tobacco, though. Okay. Now, about Roe v. Wade and all of the things that are being bandied about on that divisive issue, I ran across a quote from Pastor Dave Barnhart, capital Barnhart. Okay, and it's such a great quote that I just got to read it to you here. All right, let's start this thing. It's very good. The unborn, quote unquote, are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated. Unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or the chronically poor, they don't resent your condescension or complain that you are not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or child care. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, and religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships. And when they are born, you can forget about them because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if by Being born, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love if you want to claim that you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners, immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, they all got thrown under the bus for the unborn. That's a great quote from Pastor Dave Barnhart. I'm not sure which church he's the pastor of, but he's a very wise guy. I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. He's a very smart person and very articulate. Okay. The Midnight Skeptic has kind of gotten into it. I'm having a sort of a Facebook argument. It's not an argument. It's just a disagreement. And we're both, civil to each other, unlike Republicans. It's and he's a professor, a very smart guy. His claim is that the Democratic Party is, in his words, beyond redemption. They are not lefty enough, and those are my words. They are not lefty enough, and are not getting down in the gutter with the deplorable Republicans. Deplorable is Hillary Clinton's word for the Republican base. And she was absolutely right, even though it was not very politically astute to let that epithet out of her mouth and out into the airwaves. Excuse me, another sip. Okay, where was I? Democrats, beyond redemption. Okay. Democrats don't get down in the gutter with the deplorable Republicans. And Democrats are not really fighting for the things that the majority of Americans want, i.e., a woman's control of her own body, eliminating assault rifles and making more gun safety requirements, no book banning, and honest, complete history taught in our schools. Truthful history. God, what a concept. A permanent, well-funded Social Security, Medicare, and well-funded Affordable Care Act, the ACA, better known as Obamacare. Or a living wage, minimum wage, and robust union jobs. He claims that the Democrats are not fighting hard enough for those things. And I think he's kind of right in that. Yes, if the Democrats really did control the Senate, which they don't, thank you, Joe Manchin, they would put more of these things into law. He sent along a Salon article called, by this writer of this article, Defund the Democratic Party. I really just hate these lefty on lefty backbiting arguments and purity tests that some, I don't want to say radical lefties, because Republicans call us that enough, or far out lefties, but the left writing these articles in magazines like Salon, for instance, are spend, in my view, enough time putting down Democrats. The Democratic Party is a somewhat left-leaning political party. In my view, it's not left-leaning enough. And in one of my missives back to him, I said, I wish that the Democratic Socialists were a more viable political party. I would join them in a heartbeat. I think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has at one time or another identified herself as a Democratic Socialist. Bernie Sanders is right out there. And I think that he also called himself a Democratic Socialist. I'm not sure about that, but I think so. And it is this professor's guy that I'm discussing this topic with that a lot of the Democratic senators and representatives are beholden to corporate interests. And yes, that's true to an extent, but it pales in comparison to the Republican Party that is completely beholden to corporate interests, and worse, completely beholden to the Southern Baptists and their deplorable base. Okay. You may have heard of this story, recent story, about this. I've written on top of my notes here, horrible news. An Ohio 10-year-old girl was raped and made pregnant by her rapists. It was reported by her mother to Child Protective Services, but the girl was past the point in which she could access abortion in Ohio. She had to go to Indiana for an abortion, which she got on June 30th. Ohio was one of those states that had a trigger law that as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned by our Supreme Court, that their anti-abortion law, with no exceptions, would go into effect. Okay. The Ohio Attorney General, a Republican, at first cast doubt on the rape publicly. He went on Fox News to say this, that he thought it was a bogus claim because he hadn't heard from any police departments or city detectives about this. Maybe they realize that he's just such an incompetent jerk that what's the use in telling this attorney general? What's his name? Yost is his last name. Okay. Yost finally issued a statement, quote, "We rejoice anytime a child rapist is taken off the streets." The rapist was arrested, and he confessed to raping her on 2 different occasions. And to make sure, they're doing a DNA test on the fetus and the girl and this guy who they arrested. He's 27 years old. And to confirm it, but he confessed. I don't think that the police department in Indianapolis, beat a confession out of him or anything. But anyway, this was Yost's statement. And Indiana, whose legislatures hold a Republican supermajority in both houses, is considering a total abortion ban, similar to that in Ohio. In Ohio, in the year 2020, 2 years ago, there were 52 abortions in children 15 or younger, which is 0.3% of the 20,605 abortions performed that year. Vomit-inducing Ohio Representative Jim Jordan has quietly deleted his tweets expressing doubts about the Ohio girls' truthfulness. Okay. Republicans do not want 10-year-old girls to be able to have abortions. They want young girls of that age to carry the baby of their rapists to term. That's what evil Republicans want. Most of the anti-abortion laws in Republican-controlled states have no exceptions for rape or incest. Republicans, let me repeat this, Republicans want young girls to have to carry their rapists' babies to term. Republicans are evil. Okay. Am I clear enough? Okay. Whew. Okay, another topic that's not very good. In Connecticut, a group of mothers calling themselves Christian taxpayers tore down a display of LGBTQ books celebrating Pride Month. They demanded that the books be burned. Yes, they used the word burned. The kerfuffle was resolved without the police being called. The librarian said if it happened again, the police would be called. Speaking of books, North Hunterdon High School librarian Martha Hickson was called out by name at the local school board meeting for allowing the 16-year-old son of Gina de Lusant. I'll spell her name. If anybody in the New Jersey area is listening to this, go throw a tomato at her front door or something. Anyway, her name is Gina, Gina, de, D-E, Lusant, capital L-U-S-A-N-T. And obviously she's a MAGA head, conservative, Republican troll. Okay, I'm off my notes here. Okay, what her 16-year-old boy's son wanted to check out, and the library allowed him to, was Lawn Boy, okay, which is the theme of that novel is LGBTQ characters, and, you ready for this? Genderqueer. And I've talked about that book many times, and I really would like to meet the author, Maya Kobabe. She's a local woman. I mean, I think she's 31 or 32 now, but she went to Petaluma High. That's where I am right now, in Petaluma. But anyway, here's a couple of quotes. The books, okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay, here's a quote from this Gina de Lusant. These books groom them, meaning the kids, to accept the inappropriate advances of an adult. And then another quote. And the books grooms the kids to make them more willing to participate in the heinous acts described in these books. And she called both these books pornographic. Now, I haven't read Lawn Boy, but I have read Genderqueer, which is a graphic novel. It's not a regular printed book. And I've mentioned this book on this show before, not recently, but 5 or 6 shows ago. It's about 340 pages long. There is exactly 1 page of Maya Kobabe performing a sex act. And okay, she's an artist herself. She did this graphic novel, write and illustrate. And she illustrated herself performing a sex act with what looked like an older lesbian lady in the book. And it wasn't all that graphic, really. I wasn't quite sure exactly what they were doing. Okay. It's not pornographic. And to Gina de Lucent, grow up and let your 16-year-old son grow up. Jeez, if that book is going to make him run out and look for sex partners in the LGBTQ community, then you have failed as a mother to allow him to grow up. Okay. Time check. Okay. Here's a couple of other things. Oh, okay. This article from Salon about defunding the Democratic Party. Speaking of defunding, after the death of, another brain freeze. I shouldn't forget this guy's name, but the guy that was killed by a police officer whose knee was on his neck. Anyway, and other unarmed black youth that were gunned down by policemen. These signs in the protest marches cropped up saying, "Defund the police." And I can understand the sentiment behind these protests, but that's not the way to go. Police departments, we need them. They just have to be regulated a little better. The officers need to be trained in, humanity, I guess. But not defund the police. For the same reason, we shouldn't defund the Democratic Party. The Republicans don't have to worry about money. The Koch brothers was the Republican sugar daddy for a long time. Well, there's only one Koch brother left now. The other one died. I'm not sure which one of the Koch brothers is alive now, but I hope he kicks off pretty soon. He doesn't deserve to live, regardless of how many buildings have his name on them. Okay. All right. There's a an article in a newsletter called Above the Law. And this article was written by Alaric, capital Alaric. I think it's a French last name, Diarmont. Okay, it looks like deer mint, but I think it's pronounced Diarmont. Okay, capital Dearment. And it came out in the Above the Law newsletter of May 6th of 2022. And the title of the article is Roe Could Soon Fall. And he wrote this article before the decision on Roe v. Wade. Roe could soon fall, comma, and Jill Stein's supporters made it possible. Okay. I mentioned Jill Stein. Okay, remember her? She was the presidential candidate of the Green Party in 2016 presidential election. Do you remember the libertarian guy, Gary Johnson? He was I believe, the governor of New Mexico at one point. And I thought he was a good guy. He needed to be a bit more cognizant of international goings on, but I don't know exactly how many votes Gary Johnson got. I think it was, somewhere between 3 and 4 million. And Jill Stein of the Green Party got around 1 million, maybe not even quite that much. But anyway, she didn't siphon off enough votes from Hillary Clinton that would have moved a number of states over into the Hillary Clinton column. I don't believe that. I'm not 100% certain of that. I've not researched that. But Jill Stein was a vessel for discontented lefties who couldn't bear to just hold their nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I don't particularly like her myself, but some of the things that she would be for, I'm for too. And she's a Democrat. And because there were a lot of people that either didn't vote at all or voted for Jill Stein or maybe Gary Johnson, just because they just have had an animus for Hillary Clinton, more of an animus than I have. She lost. And then this country, who is in bad danger of just being flushed down the MAGA head toilet. All right. I'm riffing, of course. You guys can probably see that. Okay. Anyway, for my listeners out there, please look up Above the Law newsletter and Alaric Diarmint, May 6th, 2022. Read that article. He's quite a well-read, articulate article reader. Okay, one thing, and this is just a paper note that didn't make it into my notebook. For the next show, one of the things that I wrote down here for me to look up, which I didn't get around to, is a new pending law in Florida called Stop the Woke Act. I don't know what all is in it, but I've done shows on the meaning originally of woke, and how it's been corrupted now by Republicans and their messaging gurus. Woke started out as black dialect, meaning, well, okay, this folk singer Leadbelly, after he sang this song, Scottsboro Boys, was being interviewed by this newspaper person, and she asked him about the meaning of his song, and then he said he was not singing this, it was just a comment after the song was over. This is just a message for all you black boys that are wandering around down in the Mississippi and Alabama area. You'd best stay woke. Now, what does that mean? It means don't draw attention to yourself in the South. Especially don't draw attention to yourself from Southern sheriffs, because they'll just run you in for anything. The Scottsboro Boys were, back in the mid-30s, accused of raping a white girl. Of course, they didn't do it. But anyway, they spent time in prison, and they were called collectively the Scottsboro Boys. And Leadbelly went to visit them once and, check up on them and see that they were still alive. Okay. All right, enough of that. Okay, I promise you that I will talk about the Stop Woke Act of Florida. Okay, about this Ohio 10-year-old girl that was raped and impregnated and got her abortion in the next state over, Indiana. She was 6 weeks and a couple of days along in her pregnancy. Anyway, she was beyond the point where she was eligible to get an abortion in Ohio. Excuse me, another sip. The creepy governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, Noem, wants the focus to be on the rapist. Of course. It's like the gun nuts who want the emphasis to be placed on mental health. That's what we need. They don't want guns to be part of the conversation. Okay, Kristi Noem doesn't want abortion or rapes of 10-year-old girls to be part of the conversation. She just wants the rapist to be off the street. It's kind of like the Ohio Attorney General. Okay, this is a quote. "It's incredible that nobody's talking about the pervert. Horrible and deranged individual who raped a 10-year-old girl. Well, Kristi, he was arrested, all right? Now can you tell everybody how you feel about not allowing 10-year-old girls to have an abortion? How about that? The Republicans want anything to change the subject away from the abortion issue. Remember Texas Governor Greg Abbott, when he was talking about a 12-year-old girl getting an abortion because she was raped, his answer was, well, we're going to work here in Texas on getting all these rapists off the streets. Of course, he didn't answer the question as it was asked. Republicans never do. Evil Republicans. Have I made myself clear yet how I feel about Republicans? Okay, Kristi Noem. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, a.k.a. Mr. Compassion, termed the rape a tragedy. Philip Gunn, Gunn, who is Speaker of the House of Ohio, when asked, and this is a hypothetical question, when asked if a 12-year-old girl pregnant from rape or incest should carry the pregnancy to term, said, quote, "That is my personal belief." Okay, at least he was an honest Republican that came right out and said it. Okay, please, this November, get out and vote all Republicans out of office. This would be such a nice country if Democrats were in control. And I don't care that some Democrats are influenced by corporate interests. That's just the way our government works now. Republicans are the worst offenders, but if we could pass laws in this country that could restrict CO2 emissions, methane emissions, if we could allow women to just be in control of their own bodies, is that too much to ask? Well, in this Republican dystopia, I guess it is. Okay. New topic. Okay. Inclusiveness language. And I might step on a few toes by saying what I'm going to say, but this is my beliefs. And generally, I am all for inclusive language, but I will never refer to a woman as a person with a vagina, or I will never refer to a guy as a person with a penis. Okay, and I realize that there are some guys who are trans males. That's fine. I'm all for them. I wish them happiness and being at peace with themselves and the identity that they chose for themselves. I'm all for it. There are scientifically and medically only two sexes. Sexes are defined by more than the outer genitalia. Don't listen to, who is it, Alabama's Kay Ivey, what she said. If you were born a boy, then you're a boy. If you were born a girl, then you're a girl. Simple answers she's a simpleton. Okay. All right. Sexes are defined by more than outer genitalia. There are the chromosomes, XX, XY, and there's a lot of intersex combinations. Now, they're relatively rare, but they do occur. And Republicans would just bully them in school, pass laws against them. How dare they intrude in our well-ordered earth just like God intended. Okay. I'm off my notes again. Okay, sexes are defined by more than the outer genitalia. There are the XX and XY chromosomes. There's the inner gonads, outer gonads, and outer gonads are a guy's balls, all right? That's what I mean. Outer gonads and hormones, mainly testosterone, but there's all sorts of androgens and brain freeze on the female hormones, estrogens. Both female and male gonads secrete estrogens and androgens. Androgens are the male hormones. in varying ratios. Most guys, cisgender guys, of which I am one, most of the gonadal hormones are testosterone and other trace androgens. Okay, a girl's ovaries secrete mostly estrogens with some testosterone. And then when a fetus is inside the woman's uterus, the woman who is carrying the baby also secretes testosterone and estrogens, and they work their way into the uterus to influence the sexual and gender development of the fetus that's in there. Time check. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, that's the physiological sex. Okay, and gender is a social construct. There are two genders, all right? Male and female. And then somebody in the trans community is going to get pissed off at me and say, well, what about bigender? What about gender atypical, gender fluid, gender nonconforming, bigender? Those are all choices made by a person who wants to present themselves to the world, to their friends, to their family, to their school, as gender nonconforming. That's okay. It's fine. All are choices made by the person. Okay. Transgender is moving from one gender to the other, male to female, or female to male. That's transgender. Or male to bigender, okay? Male to female is trans female. If a trans female wants to present herself to the world as a, I don't know, short-haired, pants-wearing male, that's fine. That all comes with acceptance. And that's something that Republicans just can't put up with. Okay? My identity, and I really hate to have to use all these inclusiveness words, but I will if I'm talking to somebody that wants me to use pronouns that I'm not quite used to. I'll do it. It's no big deal. Okay, I am a white. Cisgender, meaning that I was born a male and I think of myself as a male. Heterosexual, I am attracted to women. I don't know. I have anxieties. I guess I should include that. So I'm not disabled because of it. I'm not an ableist. Let's see, what else? Anyway, that's me, the Midnight Skeptic. Okay, right quick. Oh, damn, time check. I got time. Okay, this was an article by Joe McKnight. Oh, man. Eyesight. Joe McCreight, MC, capital CREIGHT. In 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency training, and nearly 30 years of practice as a family physician, I have never been asked, quote, what is the definition of a woman? Seems obvious that one could just look at the genitalia. You're either a boy or a girl, right? Well, not always. Although it's rare, many people are born with ambiguous genitalia. The OBGYN and the pediatrician are simply unable to determine the sex. Historically, in consultation with the family, a sex would be assigned. Turns out that often as not, the child would ultimately identify with the sex they were not assigned. And even that, it's okay. The child should be able to go to school without being harassed by MAGA heads or Republican, conservative, religious, evangelical, evil people. All right. I was riffing. Okay. So it must be the chromosomes. The 23rd pair in humans is designed XX in females and XY in males. The Y chromosome determines male characteristics. So you are either a boy or a girl, right? Well, not always. In embryology, the default setting is female. The Y chromosome normally triggers male development. Ever heard of testicular feminization syndrome, now more properly referred to as androgen insensitivity syndrome? Ever hear that? A normal XY baby is born with essentially normal female external genitalia. The body simply does not respond to androgens associated with the Y chromosomes. As the child grows and enters puberty, there will be normal female breast development and other feminine characteristics. Unless genetic testing has been done at some point, the abnormality is not discovered until the teenage daughter presents to the doctor with concerns that menstruation has not started. Examination will reveal that the vagina ends in a blind pouch, no uterus, and undescended testes. They are often very feminine, cheerleaders, beauty pageant contestants, etc. God, time check. Okay, I will finish reading this on the next show. I've got to play my out music right now. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, those of you who are listening on the radio watching this on YouTube, the radio thing will be broadcast on the 17th. And then next week, sometime around the 19th or 20th, I'll record next week's show. So I will see you all then, and I will catch up on those things that I promised you about. The Midnight Skeptic always keeps his promises. So until next week, so long.